Hi, I'm Laura Mattier Florence. I'm a Senior Account Executive here at Panorama, and today I'm going to talk about business process management and why it's such a big deal when it comes to ERP initiatives. So generally, the very first time I get on the phone with a client, I'll ask them, why are you coming to us right now? What's happening? And what I find is almost always they'll say, look, we're taking a look at what we do and how we do it, and we're pretty much figuring out that the technology is not supporting us. It's not helping us grow. It's keeping us from doing what we need to do. We know we're not as efficient and effective as we want to be, and we need some help. So generally, what I'll find is there's kind of three different flavors. So I've got some companies that are maybe younger organizations, and they started out with Excel spreadsheets, and maybe they bought QuickBooks, and then maybe they bought some software along with some hardware that they had bought, and they just kind of cobbled together a best-of-breed solution, and that worked for a while, but now they've grown, and they're ready for more sophistication with their ERP solution. Or maybe it's a company that is more established. So they implemented ERP 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, it was a perfect fit. It did exactly what they needed them to do. And over the last 20 years, they have continued to grow. They've continued to expand their processes. They've maybe added some customization here, there, whatever. And they've built this web of support. But sometimes that web of support has gotten really constricting. So they're unable to take upgrades now, and maybe they're just simply limited by what that system can do. The third option that I'll see in terms of clients that will come to us is these are larger companies that maybe have grown via acquisition. So now they have multiple locations, they may have multiple business units, and each one of those has their own application infrastructure. Maybe they have different ERP systems, or they might even be using the same ERP system, but it's a different instance and they're using it in a different way. So what's consistent? Even though these are all ERP initiatives, these are all different sized companies with different challenges, the consistent thread is that you're following the data. There's a need to be able to take information and materials from a vendor in through to your organization across all the different functional areas and then out to your client. And that stream of data, that all follows your business processes. Your business processes are what define how you do upstream and downstream within your organization. So when we come in for an ERP initiative, the first thing we're going to do is take a look at what's your current state. We're going to map out your business processes. We're going to identify, if you're looking for a selection, for example, we're going to use that as a tool to help identify what your requirements are. But then we're going to continue the conversation and say, okay, this is what you're doing today. Where do you want to be in the future? So where are the new functionality, the new abilities that you want to have, and what are the current pain points that you've got? What we find with pain points is that they generally come in kind of three different flavors. So it's either going to be something that's related to an organizational structure, so it could be the communications between organizations, or maybe literally like your org charts. How are you? Are you very centralized, or are you very siloed operation? Another pain point that we'll often find is it could literally be the business processes. So it's just how you do what you do. And that's something else we'll take a look at. And then the third thing is, one of your pain points might be with your ERP initiative is you may literally have a technology limitation. So you are growing, you need to be able to handle X number of transactions per second, and your system simply can't handle it. So as you can see, there's different challenges you'll come in, but one of the biggest things that comes out is the business process piece. And with the business process challenges, we find generally you've got a lot of manual processes, so you may have multiple systems you're shuttling back and forth because they're not integrated. You might have duplicate processes, so you have different managers with different requirements, or you have different systems and you're having to do the same thing but do it twice. Or it may just be a legacy process. We've always done it this way. And so as we go in, we want to address those, and we want to fix them, and we want to ask not just what are you doing and why are you doing it, but how are you doing it and how can we improve it. And sometimes that business process work doesn't necessarily require technology. So we had a food company that came to us, and as we were doing their current state, we were taking a look at their warehouse operations, and it turned out that they were pulling materials from the back of the warehouse really often. And then there were materials in the front of the warehouse that they very rarely used. Well, simply by swapping the locations of the materials within the warehouse, we were able to introduce a lot more efficiency into their operation. So that's one piece of it. So it's an ERP initiative, but we come in and we start by looking at the business processes, and sometimes those business processes that we're going to fix don't necessarily require the technology. Well, let's say you get further into the process and you're now actually looking at selecting, you're making your final determination, and you're starting to get into implementation, and there's a gap. There's about a 10% gap, and it's you know, there's a good fit except for this one piece. And the question is, do we follow the business processes as defined by the software, or do we maybe define that and customize the software to match what we need? And what we would advise you is that you have to take a look and say, is this business process a differentiator for us? Is this why we're successful against our competition? And if it is, then you need to protect that business process. And yes, you invest in the customization, and that is a long-term investment. Over time, as you tape upgrades, you're going to have to readdress it. But it's worth it because that's what makes you successful. Or it may be that that 10% gap between what the software does and how it does it and what you do now could actually make you more efficient. And it's an out-of-the-box solution. It could be more, you know, a more cost-effective opportunity for you. What you have to keep in mind is that there's a human impact. One of the things we've found over time is that the difference between success and failure with ERP initiatives is about the people and the process. And this is where those things combine and where they collide. And so if it turns out, as you go through and you're looking at your business processes, that moving to a new solution is going to entail adopting something new, then you're definitely going to want to address that as an organizational change issue, identify what's in it for the folks that are making the change, make sure they get the adequate training, etc. So that's kind of the totality. As you can see, you cannot go into an ERP initiative without taking a look at your business process management, and that's why it is absolutely embedded in everything we do.